Thanks a lot, Tim, and thanks a lot for everyone for jumping on board for a short presentation today. If we could jump straight to slide 3, that'd be great. You can go back to the disclaimer in your own time. Just a summary. So we've got assets across Victoria, South Australia and WA. And Victoria is our primary exploration focus at this point in time. And we've got our 3 primary targets being the Snowstorm, Haunted Stream and Dogwood, which is copper, the other 2 being gold. We've had some early success in our first drill program at our Snowstorm prospect, producing an intersection over 30 grams per tonne, which is greater than an ounce, which was really, really encouraging and something that got us really excited. And then we have our WA-based Gimlet project that has got 120,000 ounces of gold. And then our recently announced Mabel Creek, which is an iron oxide copper gold prospect, which we will look to start some exploration on over the coming months. Next slide, please. Company summary. As Tim mentioned, we're currently at a market cap of about 8.5 million. I think that it probably, from our point of view, I think it's a fantastic time to start looking at us as a company. We've got some great projects. We've got a lot of exploration coming up, and we certainly think that we can deliver some strong results. We're pretty well funded around that 2 to 2.4 million for now. And yeah, we'll go to the next slide, please. Board and management, we've got a fantastic team. We've got a lot of experience. We've got some guys that have been behind De Grey Mining in the founding of the company, Atlas Iron, the chairman of Westwoods Mining. So we're well positioned in terms of our corporate governance and experience in mining exploration to deliver results. Next slide, please. Our technical team, I think we're really lucky with the guys we've got on board. And part of it is that these guys pegged the ground that we've got. We certainly think that it's something that differentiates us in terms of the quality of our geologists and our geological consultants. Next slide, please. So just very briefly on why we're in East Gippsland and why it's our primary focus. As we can see on the left-hand side, that initial image that our Haunted Stream, or the East Gippsland Gold, where we're placed, was initially in line with Bendigo and Fosterville and Stawell, which has produced very significant amounts of gold. And then there was what's called the Tasmanian indenter came up and hit Victoria, and that's caused the bending of the what now looks like a Z, and that's what we believe has moved our prospects over to there, and that's what brought us to that area. Next slide, please. I think that one of the really unique things is that, looking at some of the rock chip samples that our geologists have been able to take. So, for example, we can see that there's 123 grams per tonne rock chip taken at Snowstorm. That's literally a case of our geologists walking up to, rocks or outcrop and taking samples from that. And I think that the historical production and the historical mining in the area, which hasn't been followed up for a long period of time, tells us that there is gold where we're looking. It's just that no one has gone and done the work at a deep level to be able to find it at this stage. And we believe that we're going to be able to, and our results are certainly starting to indicate that. We recently announced our Dogwood prospect as well. I think it was on Wednesday that we released that to the market. This is a really interesting one. It's been drilled previously back in the mid-90s and produced intersections up to 1.33% copper, which is really, really good. So that's something interesting and exciting that's coming on and will increase exploration over the next few months as well. Next slide, please. This is just a graphic of where we're located in Victoria. So we can see that we've got a really significant land package. I think in total we'll be at about 2,250 square kilometres by the end of this year, with some tenements that are going to be granted. At this stage, our Snowstorm tenement and Haunted Stream are the two that have been granted, but we've got these other surrounding ones which will be before the end of the calendar year. Next slide, please. So Snowstorm's our most advanced prospect to date. As I mentioned, we've had some really good rock chip samples in our initial field work, but then we've also had our initial maiden drill program finish up around June this year, and we delivered some really good results. 3 meters at 11.6 grams, 1 meter at 8.5, and things like that. So I think that we didn't get a really strong reaction from the market, but I think have to remember this is our first time drilling this ground, and we got a lot of information which is going to be really useful for our current drilling program. And these types of grades are really quite significant. So we think that in this current drill program, which has actually commenced as of yesterday, so the drills started turning yesterday, we're confident that we're going to be able to deliver further results and really strong results at this prospect. So the two primary targets that we're focusing on can be seen here. So it's going to be based around the hole 2 from the last program, which delivered the 33 gram intersection, and hole 5, which also produced the 8.5 gram section. Next slide, please. Our Haunted Stream prospect, I think this is the one that we're really looking forward to increasing our work on over the coming months. We can see some of the numbers, and if you have a look back at the historical mine production in this area, that ore being extracted at 15 to 30 grams per tonne and above is really high grade stuff. And we can see that we've got a significant land holding here. With that image, the strike zone goes for about 8.5 Ks. Our initial priority is going to be down the bottom there, where we can see the Ernestine and Hibernia, and that's where the historical mining production has been over that 30 grams per tonne, and we think presents a really good opportunity to deliver some strong results. With that, we have got a work plan submitted to the ERR, which is Earth Resources and Regulation, and we're just waiting on that to come back for approval. Once we've been approved on that, we'll be able to look at getting a drill rig organised and start our exploration works there. Next slide, please. Dogwood, as I mentioned, this is a copper prospect. So it was initially discovered by Anglo-American Prospect in the 1980s and last drilled by CRA in the mid-90s, which is now owned by Rio Tinto. Obviously, the copper price in the mid-90s wasn't quite as high as what it is now, and we think that it presents an opportunity to deliver some really good value for the company and the shareholders. Some of the intersections, like I mentioned briefly before, 13 metres at 1.33%, 30 metres at 0.5%, which included 8 metres at 1.2, and then there's also been some good gold intersections as well, 2 metres at 8 grams per tonne. So our initial plan with this is that we're going to replicate the initial exploration works that were done by CRA, but plan to drill them at a further depth. What we can see in this chart here, that line that runs on an angle and finishes in the yellow zone, is actually the intersection which produced the 1.33% copper. And what it's showing is that it actually ended in mineralisation. So what we want to do, and similar to all other holes, is that we want to drill deeper to test mineralisation at depth and see how much further it can go. The tenement is not granted at this stage, but we expect it to be in Q4 this year, and we're pretty keen to commence exploration and drilling on that relatively soon after that has been granted. Next slide, please. Mabel Creek. So again, we've got a really good land package here in South Australia, not too far from Coober Pedy at just over 1,000 square kilometres. This project was actually found by one of our geologists, Dr. Gavin England, who was following a South Australian government initiative where they ran a competition to encourage the increase of exploration works in South Australia. The winner and the runner-up actually identified the ground or areas overlapping the ground that we've got as highly prospective for gold and IOCG deposits. And the ground was free, much to our surprise. So we've pegged that ground. We've now got the tenements granted, and we'll be looking to start working on those over the coming months. We can see that we've got some pretty good neighbours in BHP, Rio, FMG, and Oz Minerals. And we're looking forward to seeing what this project can deliver, but we think we've got something good here. Next slide. Lastly, we've got our Gimlet Gold project in WA, in the Kalgoorlie area. It's got an existing resource of 120,000 ounces. We've got a mining lease application underway. That's with the WA government. We will continue to peg away at that, and hopefully that'll be granted soon. But we've also identified some further targets on the ground as well, that we can look to do some further exploration works on over the coming months to increase the prospectivity of the site. Next slide, please. So just a quick summary. We've got drilling going on up at Snowstorm at the moment. That's going to be ongoing for the next few months, but we expect to be able to periodically release some data and some assay results from that. We've got granting of further tenements in East Gippsland, including the Dogwood Porphyry Copper prospect. We've got a LiDAR survey data to be released to the market in the not too distant future, which is going to give us some insight into further historical workings. And then we'll be looking to start undertaking some initial exploration on Mabel Creek in South Australia as well. I think that's sort of everything, and if we've got any questions, I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. We've got one of our analysts online, so it'll be a little bit technical, but technical perhaps for our audience. But Victoria has some high-grade gold, but ore bodies and geological setting have been big challenges for small explorers.
Yep.
Is your targets, or are your targets any different?
No, I don't think so. But I think that's where going back to our technical team, and particularly Ian Nielsen and PGN Geoscience, that they are structural geologists, and they've been able to give us some really strong insights into the structural controls. And we think that we've got quite a good grip on that. And I think that, as the chairman likes to say, when the lie detector goes down, we'll get a pretty good answer as to where we sit with that. But we think our geological team and the insights that they're able to provide put us in a position to understand the structural controls of the ore bodies. And look, for the analysts, I'd be more than happy to take this conversation offline and go into a bit more detail if that's something that you'd be interested in.
Sure. And with plenty of interest in the kind of EV battery space at the moment, are there plans to accelerate your copper development at Dogwood?
I don't think there's plans to accelerate. I think it's already, a relatively interesting prospect, and it's something that we're already looking to work. The granting of the tenement, we can't do anything more about that. As I mentioned, once it is granted, we are very keen to start doing works on it. And the fact that we've already released some information to the market, we're starting to undertake some field work, some structural mapping. We've identified our drill targets, all those sorts of things. I'm pretty confident in saying we're well positioned to get started once we can.
And what's the access like to drill rigs out there? We always ask that of miners out in Kalgoorlie, for example.
I think it's probably the same as everywhere, that it can be challenging getting access to drill rigs, but I think that, if you're getting on the front foot, getting out there and organising in advance, you can get access to them, but it can be a challenge at times. And I think that, once you've got a drill rig, possession is 9/10 of the law, and you've got to make sure that you keep drilling.
And Sorry, there's a question. It's not for here, but and so working capital is always a balancing act. What are your plans moving out in terms of your drilling program and access to capital?
Look, I think that right now we're in a reasonable position to probably go, you know, another round of drilling at one of our prospects before we need to consider that. You know, I think that we've got the ability to raise the capital if we need it. I think we've got a great suite of projects and you know, some great prospects. But I don't think that it's something that we're thinking of at this very second. It's certainly in the back of our minds, but you know, I think we're well placed for now.